Hi, in this video, I wanted to talk about the editor Codeium, which has a AI that can be used as a plugin for different editors, or you can install directly the Windsurf editor, which is a Visual Studio Code version, but predefined with Codeium. So what's Codeium? We have the possibility to install the editor Windsurf, which is a version of Visual Studio Code, but you can click on the extensions and you can see all of the extensions that you can use for different editors like Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, etc. If you click on Visual Studio Code, you can see that there's a video tutorial on how to install it, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. And if we go back to the main page, you can see what it does. For example, if you're in code, for example, in Python, you can give some instructions by adding comments, and it automatically creates the code for you according to the instruction that you have given. You have the possibility also to have auto-completion, and above all, it takes into account your code, the structure of your project, the files that are already present for auto-completion, and make suggestions. It has also the possibility to have a chat. You have a chat where you can give some instructions, and if you use Windsurf, it can also create the files automatically. You can press Ctrl+I or Command-I, and it opens the command line on top, and then you can give some instructions to the Codeium AI. You can also make auto-completion, as you can see from the image, and here you can see a comparison between Codeium and GitHub Pylons, all of the stars from the marketplace, the JetBrains marketplace. And above all, when you take a look at pricing, you can see here that the individual version is free with these characteristics, these features. We have the possibility to have the editor Windsurf already predefined with all the auto-completion. So unlimited auto-completion, unlimited chat with the editors without having to go to ChatGPT or any other AI. You can have unlimited instructions, basic content awareness. It means that it has the possibility to know what your project is about, your files that are present in the project, and according to these files, it generates the auto-completion. The quantity of tokens or data that it manages is limited in the free version, but I gave it a try, and I can guarantee you that it's really fantastic. It does a lot of things. Otherwise, if you want some other features, like having some other models that you can choose from, which are more powerful than with $10 a month, you can have it. It is really worthwhile. It's a very powerful weapon. It's like having a developer next to you. You can click on download, and you can download Windsurf. It could be for Mac, it could be for Windows, or if you take here, you have the possibility to download it for Mac, Linux, Windows. Remember, it's a version of Visual Studio Code. Otherwise, you can open the editor, Visual Studio Code. You can install the extension. I'm going to do it with Visual Studio Code. You can go to extension and search for Codeium. You have it here, you install it, and then I'm going to uninstall it for you so that I can show you how to do it. It's going to ask you to log into Codeium. You can use your Gmail account or any other email, and here on the Visual Studio Code account, you can see the Codeium link. I'm gonna sign out so that you can see how we can do it. Once that we click on login, we allow Visual Studio Code to open the URL. You can see a Codeium website where it's gonna ask you to log in or to register. I already done it. I'm gonna click open Visual Studio Code, and you're gonna have the extension enabled. Now let's suppose that we begin a new project. Let's go back to the code. I'm going to clean up this HTML file. Let's suppose that we start with an HTML file, a CSS file, and also a JavaScript file, javascript.js. The first thing that we can do is auto completion. If we begin typing HTML, of course, you're going to have also the auto completion that you already have from Visual Studio Code. You can open a tag, for example, and you can see it begins to suggest. You press tab and you continue pressing tab, and you have the skeleton of the file. And you can see how it automatically adds a JavaScript file with index.js, and it created this document. And now if we add link, you can see that it automatically auto-completes the style sheet and the index CSS file. We press tab and you can see that it auto-completes the rest of the code. If we create, for example, a table, it does the same thing. It auto-completes the rest for us. It suggests some TRs. If we type TR, then T-body, you can see it suggests to insert these rows. We press tabs and those rows are inserted. This is what we can do manually. If we go back to the style.css file, we can begin typing. Let's suppose that we type asterisk. You can see that it suggests to reset margin and patterns, the box sizing for border box for box sizing. We can type table, for example, and you can see that it adds the auto completion for the basic properties. Now let's suppose that we wanted to create some buttons, and we can do it by adding a command inside a comment. So let's add a comment, and here inside the comment we can give some instructions. We can give it in English, Italian, Spanish. It can understand any language. So let's type in English, create the CSS for 4 types of buttons: primary, success, warning, danger, and secondary. It even suggests inside the comments what we should write for the instructions. Now, if we just type button, you can see that it autocomplete for buttons, and it also opens the classes for the buttons that we talked about. And for buttons, it gives us the default properties. Now that we have this CSS, let's go back to the HTML file and let's add some buttons here. If we open a TR and then inside this TD, we add a button, you can see that it suggests already the class. Let's suppose that we want to type our class. As soon as we open the apostrophe, you can see that we have the list of classes, and we can accept one of the suggestions. And if we add another button, you can see that it suggests to add the success class. We can right click and preview the file. Let's correct here the style sheet because the name is not index.css, but it is link red style sheet. And now you can see that it saw that is style.css, the file that we needed to add. You can see that it helps a lot even with these small instructions. Now we can also open the chat. We have 2 modes. We can open the style.css file, and if we press Ctrl+I or Command+I, you can see the command line on top, and we can insert the command. You can give command to Codeium from here. For example, make the buttons rounded and change color when hovering. So the instruction can be done in some other languages if you want to. Here you can see that it suggests we can click on accept to accept the modifications. And you can see here in the button we have the hover. It changes the color and it was added inside the button. And also the border radius, and you can see that it works. And you can see in the live preview that it worked. Now let's press Command I and let's add. I'm gonna type it now in Italian so you can see that you can understand also Italian. So aggiorna le classi dei bottoni means update the button classes, giving some margin and padding. Okay, it was added here in buttons. So we have to be really clear about our instruction. We can click on follow up. We can reject this modification because that's not what we wanted. We have to be more specific about our instructions. So let's type modify the classes primary and success by adding a padding of 5 pixels. We click on accept and let's take a look. You can see here, you have to pay attention where your cursor is. Sometimes it messes the code if you have the cursor in the wrong place. So let's reject. And let's now select the class. Let's select this piece of code. And now we press Command I. And let's give it the instruction now. Add 5 pixels of padding. And now it was only added to the warning. Let's click on accept. Let's choose the other two. And let's give the same instruction. Add 5 pixels of padding to primary and success. Okay, and now you can see that I was more clear and now it is more precise and it did what I asked. Another thing that we can do is just to open the chat. Let's go back to the HTML table and let's add a button here. If you don't see the Codeium icon, you can click on the 3 dots and you can select Codeium. The chat is opened. Here there are some previous chats that I used. I can click on the plus sign. As you can see here, we have some instructions or some help on how to use the commands. Here on Ask Anything, you can type. I'm gonna use Spanish here so that you can see that it works. So create a list, an order list of type numeric with the first 10 countries of the world that use nuclear weapons. And you can see that it generated a list, a real list, okay? And it was clear because we didn't ask for the HTML source code, but it created a list, okay? You can say United States, Russia, China, France. So now create an HTML list ordered by using letters and show the first 10 countries that use nuclear weapons. Okay, now with more details, you can see that it generated. Now we can copy or we can just click insert and the list is inserted where the cursor was. Now let's fix here because we need to add some padding. We can also preview with live server so we can see it full screen. We can add some more padding. So if we add style attribute and then we type margin 20 pixels, you can see here now the list because it didn't have any margin before. Let's add 40. So you can see according to your project, you can give the instructions. Now let's go back to JavaScript and let's add a comment for an instruction. Create a script that select a button, adds an event listener. You can see that it also auto-completes what I'm thinking about. And when the button is clicked, it removes a list element from a list of type A. Okay, let's press Tab, and you can see here it selected a button. I didn't specify with a certain class. For example, with primary class, it selects the button, it adds the listener, it searches for an OL list. It didn't understand that it was an A list. Then it gets all of the list items. With query selector, it selects only the first, and then it is removed. So it is okay. You can modify the code, but if we press Command-I and let's add regenerate the script, you can see that it corrected. It proposes to select the list of type A because that's what I added, and you can see that it works now. Now let's see if it works on the HTML. We have to do it with live server. So let's take a look if JavaScript is connected to the HTML file. Let's remove this JavaScript from here. Let's add it here at the bottom of the file. And let's add script. It doesn't realize that we have a JavaScript JS file. Maybe with Windsurf you can do it. And you can see that it works. By clicking submit, it removes an item from the list. Okay guys, this is just a small bite of what Codeium can do. If you install Windsurf, you have it here. You have the chat directly included into the editor, and it also creates the files. For example, if I give a command here in the chat, create an HTML page with the name page.html with the table, with the name, class name, email, age, and populated with 10 rows. You can see here we have the possibility that we have the possibility to have the file created for us. You can see that it creates the file. You can see here it created the page, it created the table, it has added the columns that I asked, and all those columns were populated with this data. So the same thing that we did on the Visual Studio Code extension we have here. If we press Command-I, you can see that the command line is added locally where we have the cursor. So we have more features than with the extension in Visual Studio Code. So if you don't have an AI because you don't want to pay for it, you can use with Codeium. There are some other, but this one, the free version, it really helps you a lot for the development phase of your project. So avoiding you to write all of the monotonous code. So I hope you liked this video. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and see you soon. Bye.